Set to go.
Ripe cherry tree.
Right?
And it's raining cherries.
Good morning. This is the Lake George Park Commission meeting number 533. It is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024, and we're at the Fort William Henry Conference Center in downtown Lake George, New York. I don't think the only introduction we've got, we're glad to see our council back after her family issues, and we've been thinking of her. Approval of the meeting minutes and the fiscal actions report. Let's start with the meeting minutes of March 2024.
So moved to accept.
Second.
Motion made, accepted. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, it's carried. Approval of fiscal actions report for March 2024.
So moved to accept.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We hear no nays, so that's carried. Project review actions report. Vice Chairman Stanek, you got that?
Yeah, resolution 2024-06, accept project review actions report. Whereas the commission has received and reviewed the project actions report prepared by the staff, dated, and whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review actions report. Now therefore be resolved that the commission directs that the project review actions report be incorporated in the full minutes of the full commission meeting. So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I hear no nays, so it's carried. And just for a reminder for all of us that we do the project action report review, project review, so that because we're a state agency, that indicates even though the board knows quite intimately what the staff does all the time, we approve of their actions on a regular basis. First application this morning is Water's Edge Marina, Class A Marina with a tour boat. Is that a joke?
Yep.
Project?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is an existing resort facility on Lake George at 3654 Lakeshore Drive. New owner, Mike Caruso, is here, and he's proposed a new Class A marina offering 3 seasonal berthing spaces, a charter vessel, a motorized boat rental, and 10 non-motorized boat rentals. Consistent with that is also a new tour boat application from Mr. Gary Ethier. You may remember him from a year or so ago. He's got an existing tour boat operation in Dunham's Bay, so he's applying for a new operation out of this new Class A marina. So I'd invite either gentleman to come and introduce yourself and talk about the application.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Mike Caruso, Water's Edge Lodge. I'm Gary Ethier, Custom Boat Tours.
And Lisa Ethier, Custom Boat Tours.
A team.
Yeah.
Go to it. Go to it. A little song and dance and
Right in the middle here.
All right. So if I gave a brief overview, I don't know if you want to go into a little detail about
repeat exactly
the
what you
property.
said. Yeah, so we just purchased the property just a couple of months ago. It's a Class B marina as we speak. We have an 80-foot dock that berths the exact amount of boats that we're looking to continue to berth. The kayak business was already there. We're looking to continue it. Just came in for the formality to go to the Class A marina that we're abiding to all of your rules and regs. All of this that we're asking for has been in existence there for 30, 40, 50 years. We have 24 or 5 units there, so we want to accommodate our customers. As Joe and I talked in the past, why do we need it? We want people to get out on the lake and enjoy it, but the real reason is when they call, the first question is, are you on the lake? Do you have a beach? Do you have kayaks? Do you have boat rentals? Do you have boat tours? Do you have a captain? If you say no to any one of those, they say, okay, thanks, goodbye. And they go to my competitor next door to the left or right or down the road. So we got to stay competitive in today's world. And that really sums it up.
you have other businesses on Lake George, don't you?
We do. We have several operations in Lake George, yes. We recently bought Dunham's Bay Resort. We have Shore Meadows Lodge in the Village, Adirondack Sunrise, Lake George Blair House, Stonegate Resort, which we follow all the same protocols and we have it in all the other locations.
So you have an investment in the future.
We do. I have 4 kids to feed. And they're all in the business, so, yes.
That's good.
And then Gary joined me at Dunham's Bay Lodge a little year ago or so, and we have a very nice business there with boat tours and boat rentals. And so that is very successful, but we're limited to what we can do there to your regs and customers. So we're thinking this is a nice addition, other side of the lake, up the lake. We can cover both aspects.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Thank you. You can relax now for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
You can sit down.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
One thing I'd like to point out from the staff perspective, generally when we have a new marina or an increase in marina services, we always seek a wastewater evaluation to make sure that the septic system can accommodate the increase in use. Thankfully, we now have new septic inspection regs, as you all know, and this facility is actually due for inspection in 2024. I've been in correspondence with Mr. Crusoe about that. So instead of having him hire an engineer to evaluate the whole system and say, yes, it's good or not, knowing that we're going to be going to the site and we have these regulations that require that it be brought up to code, we've brought that, we sort of waived that coming into it, recognizing that we're going to be there this season and he'll be bound, to those regulations to accommodate the existing and the proposed uses at the site. So that's just one little wrinkle.
Yeah, I can comment on that. Our septic system, thank God, has been upgraded in the past few years. So we have a new raised mount system, new tanks, new everything. So we don't feel that any of that's a concern. We also do have a private bathroom for just the dock and the few boaters, Gary and whoever comes in the office where you would check in. We have a private half bath there for them, which is attached to that new septic system, which we're going to do an inspection in the next week or 2 or 3. We're just getting the water on now. We've got a couple cold days coming, so the water should be 100% on by Monday. So we couldn't really do it until the water was flowing. But the septic is new. It's one of the better in the area. Thank God. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Nice.
Chairman Joe, did we have a visitation team?
Yes, we went visited I guess they're going to eventually rebuild the dock, and I think there's options. I think, Joe, that the fishing platform that's going to be there is going to be removed when they rebuild the dock.
Yep. Yeah, and that they've applied for a permit for that. I didn't include it. Technically, it doesn't require a permit to not build something that's in the water and already authorized. But essentially, to make that berthing space for the vessels, they're going to take off. There's sort of maybe a 10 by 10, halfway down the pier on one side that impedes berthing, so that they are going to take that out.
So we're actually reducing our square footage of the dock. We have just one straight leg. Right now, it's a straight leg with a 10 by 10 sitting dock fishing pier, which is kind of cumbersome for really everything. So we just want to keep it neat and clean.
Where do I get that?
Yes.
I was just concerned about the fact that this zone 3A is, the last rec study is over capacity. It's zoned over, there's a lot of traffic in this area. I have no problem with the motorized vehicles or boats that you're proposing, but I'm a little concerned about the kayaks and the canoes and the vessels that aren't motorized and the safety of the people, because I know that that's a very busy part of the lake, and the guests or whomever is renting them going in and out. I'm just thinking maybe 10 is a little too many.
I understand your concern. I beg to differ, being that I'm on 6 different parts of the lake. That's actually the quietest part of the lake. In the village, very, very busy. In that little cove right where we are is actually pretty quiet. But to do less than 10, you might as well not do it at all. You have a family of 6 that shows up. That's one family at my resort that wants to go out. So now I have 4 kayaks left. I have another family of 4. I have 25 units. Nobody else can go on the lake. The whole purpose of coming to the lake is to go on the lake. That was the biggest issue before COVID. I've been in business here 30 years. Nobody even knew the lake existed. Everybody would come to Lake George, and they thought the village was the greatest thing in the world. And I go, did you get out on the lake? No. Did you go hiking? No. Did you go biking? Did you go kayaking? Did you go swimming? No. Now, since COVID has come, everybody found the lake, and everybody wants to be on the lake. They want to swim, kayak, stand-up paddleboard, paddle boat, tours, That's what we're here for. That's what the lake is here for, to get people in the lake, utilize the lake, bring the tourism back. So I beg to differ a little bit on that. Safety is one of our, Joe will tell you, I've been in business 16 years with Kayak Lake George. We have a picture-perfect record. We are very strict with our rules. We have waivers. We have signs. We have flags. We repeat ourselves over and over and over. We've had not one incident, and I don't want to repeat that more than that, but in 16 years, and I'm proud of that.
So all of your kayaks have flags on them?
Every single one.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
Every single one. Which is a regulation that you required 10 years ago, I think.
Right. And these are only for your guests?
We do some outside sales. You know, at Shore Meadows, that's what we are. We are outside sales. But we're not going to get it here in Diamond Point. I was in Diamond Point for 17 years. Nobody's driving up and down Diamond Point Road looking for kayak rentals. We do want to offer it, because what happens is, let's say John at Diamond Cove or Mount Knoll or Blue Water or Blue Lagoon, they don't offer this service. And what'll happen is I'll sell out, and some of my families will have folks staying at Diamond Cove, and they all want to go together.
Right.
So, like I talked to Joe, I don't want to say no, because then I'll be doing something against your regulations. So I want to apply that we are going to rent to the public, but it's not high traffic. It's just to feed those few families. So for example, at Shore Meadows, Scotty's and Shore Meadows were next to each other. You'd be amazed how many people stay with us that don't have a bunch of little kids that don't want to stay at Scotty's, because that's all little kids. And then they all come hang on my beach or go hang on their beach, or they rent a boat from my, there's a lot of crisscrossing between businesses, because most of the businesses here are like Water's Edge or Shore Meadows. They're small. So we have to feed each other. So that's where it gets a little tricky. When you say no, people get upset. So for example, in the village, the Georgian sends me all their kayak rentals because they can't service it, whether they don't have the staff, or they don't have the kayaks, or they don't have the access on the beach. So there's a lot of, uniting together and servicing the customers, which I think is important.
So 10 is your max, or do you have?
10 is my max.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 10 is my max.
All
yeah.
right, so they're not going, if the Georgian is sending you customers, I mean, you're
Yeah,
You're
you
not-
can't,
yeah.
if I only have, only 10 can go out at a time, it's very little business, yeah.
Got it.
So it can't get too crazy.
And that cove has quite a pop coming in from
It's a no-wake
from the
zone.
main highway that's out
Yeah.
there, because
Yeah.
I used to haul my boat out of there
I got it.
next door.
Yeah, so, and we're in a nice little no-wake zone.
Yeah.
And our waiver requires you to stay in the no-wake zone,
I know.
so they really can't go too far.
Well, I'm glad I really appreciate all that explanation.
Yeah, no problem. No.
Thanks.
Yeah, we pride ourselves in safety and doing a nice, clean business.
And
Thank you.
For clarity, the property is in Zone 3A, which is identified as having a surplus of boatable acreage in the 2015 study. So it's not noted as being over-congested.
What about the depth near shore by the dock?
It's very shallow. That'll be our next meeting to address that, but every one of my places are extremely shallow. We'll get to that in the future, but yeah. My dock is 80 feet long, and I think it goes from 0 to maybe 3 feet at the end of the dock, so it's pretty shallow. So it's great for little kids swimming, it's great for getting in and out of kayaks, but it's not great for berthing boats because it's pretty shallow.
But you're asking for 6 berthing?
Yeah, you can get them in, like your bass fishing boats can get up close to the shore because they don't need a lot of water. You can get the pontoon boats close to the shore because they don't need a lot of water. But for example, if you have a 26-foot, cuddy, it has to be at the end.
Right.
But yeah, so, the 6 is, you always have somebody with a bass boat or a fishing boat or a rowboat with a little motor. It doesn't matter what boat, it'll be 6 boats of some kind. And to be honest with you, by the time Gary's boat is there, my boat is there, and the pontoon rental boat, that's 3.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's not a lot for any additional traffic.
Okay.
And if the water's low, I might not even be able to get 6 there. Last year it wasn't low because of a lot of rain. This year, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Somebody arrives and they really haven't driven the boat much today. How do you train them?
Oh, we do a full video training. We do an on-boat training, go over all the regs and rules. We go over all the buoys and meanings of the buoys. We have a full chart for them to go over so they know. It's about a 20-minute, entailed orientation.
Well, you don't go out with them?
No, not unless they need us to. There's plenty of days we've had to, but yes. Yeah. We vet, we don't do young, we do families. Like Gary and I have a clear understanding, if you don't have kids, we don't want to rent to you. And I know that sounds funny, but you know, but no, but I'm just saying, we want families. We don't want young adults, 20-year-olds going out and rent a boat. Yeah, we don't do anything of that nature. Yeah.
And 25 over, what, 18, 20-year-olds?
Yeah. We're very strict with it. We have families, we have businesses. We don't want the hassle, we don't want the aggravation or the liability. So we're very strict with it.
Good. All set, commissioners?
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have a resolution?
Yeah, resolution 2024-11. Application number is M245001, TB245001. Applicants is Michael Caruso and Gary Ether. Whereas the applicant has applied for a new Class A marina and tour boat, and whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, and the Commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 6 NYCRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purpose of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment, and whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3. Public notice has been published and distributed as required, and whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the facility and activity comply with the Class A marina requirements of 6 NYCRR 646-1.2B and tour boat requirements at 646-1.4D. And whereas the Commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual or cultural or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. The Lake George Park Commission hereby resolves to approve the above application with a condition that the landowner of the subject marine property shall cause a wastewater inspection with the Lake George Park Commission staff no later than July 1st, 2024, and will complete remediation as directed by the staff to the Lake George Park Commission wastewater regulations at 646-3. On-site wastewater design and account for all existing and anticipated flows, including any residual residential use, overnight guests, accommodations, and authorized Class A marine activity. Failure to abide by the terms of this condition will cause the active Lake George Park Commission marina permit for the facility to expire immediately. So moved.
Second.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, it is carried. Congratulations, good luck. Hope that summer arrives at some point.
Yeah, really.
Well, so far we had a good winter, so let's hope we continue.
Yeah, it is.
Until the end.
It was wintry this morning.
Yes. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you. Item 5 on our agenda is the application for the Gloam dock variance.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a dock application by Mr. Glom. Good. Mr. Glom and his attorney are here, and this is an authorized L-shaped dock that was brought to the Commission's attention in 2019 in advance of a real estate transaction. Commission staff were requested to come and check the compliance of the dock prior to the transaction. Molly Gallagher at that time identified some issues of non-compliance with the dock, which are in your packet and outlined in red on the schematic. Commission staff, wanting to make sure that everyone was apprised of the violations, worked hard to coordinate with the buyer's attorney. And it's our understanding that the seller's attorney was aware of that as well, and that people took that into consideration. Mr. Glom has now, purchased the property and is the owner. He has signed an order on consent, which agrees to bring the dock into compliance, but he's requesting variances to maintain the dock as it exists. Variances, the current lakefront has less than 45 feet, so by current standards, it couldn't have a dock under new construction, but it's a grandfathered dock. And also because of the limited lakefront, I think there's roughly 35 to 40 feet, the 20-foot setbacks, cross over each other, so any increase in dock size, increases the nonconformity with respect to the number of docks, and then those 20-foot sideline setbacks. So without further ado, I will introduce either of these gentlemen to talk a little bit more about the application.
All right. Good morning, Commission. My name is Andrew Clark, Captain Ryan McHenry, on behalf of Captain Glum here. Yes, we're here for a variance. Now, just to be frank, this dock, as currently existing, is older than I am, and we wouldn't be here if we didn't have to be. I think we want to clear up some of the timeline issues about when Captain Glum purchased the property and what was known or not known at that time. So there was a previous contract that the house was under contract previously, and apparently the dock issue was known at that time. That contract did not go through, that sale folded for whatever reason. And then Captain Glum purchased the property, and he was not aware of the dock issue at that time. There was other substantial work that needed to be done at the house, which is undertaken, and that is why the purchase price was lower than the previously contracted amount.
Excuse me just one minute. Justin, would you? Thank you. Go ahead. Fine.
And we understand that to be entitled to a variance, we have to establish the unnecessary hardship through substantial evidence. And in support of that, we have submitted an appraisal, we've submitted a letter from a realtor, and construction estimates to show what the financial impact of bringing this dock into compliance with all the current regulations would be. It is upwards of over $100,000 up to $150,000, and that is quite a sizable hit against the property. And we are here to answer any questions this board might have, clarify anything. One thing we wanted to point out, we know about the notice of this, where there weren't any comments submitted in the record, and Captain Glum spoke with his neighbors about this. They never received anything, so we went ahead and got some letters from them. We have 11 total, I believe, and we can submit that for the board to review. However is easiest. We just wanted to get some public input, and these are from his direct neighbors. And I'll summarize, but you'll see them eventually. The dock has been there for a while. It's not obstructing anything. It's not adversely impacting the neighborhood at all. One of the letters said it was there for as long as they can remember in its current configuration. But we're happy to answer any questions that anyone might have and seeing where we are on this. Thank you.
Okay. Nobody's in the audience, so I'm sure we don't have anybody else speaking to. Out of curiosity, captain of what?
Orange Fire Department back in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
I apologize for the uniform. I had somebody coming early to relieve me at 6, and I drove straight up. So
Really?
yeah.
Is it warmer down there?
A little bit, not that much though. A little chilly.
Just looking.
Yeah.
And counsel, what is your name?
Andrew Clark, Tabner Ryan McHenry.
Have you been the attorney for this, for the applicant from the get-go, from the beginning of all of this? Because I'm under the impression that there was another attorney that did inform Captain Glum of all the the problems with the dock?
Can I clear that up?
Please.
It's kind of a convoluted story, but the previous owner, Eric KKR, that's actually, he owned it in an LLC. He was fighting the park commission about the whole dock issue. He bought a house up the street and wanted to sell this house. He had it under contract with the buyer. That buyer was aware of the dock issues, the holding tank issues, and the fact that the house needed a lot of repairs. It was under contract for 2 or 3 months. They went back and forth. That deal fell through. That's when I stepped in. I saw the house. I made an offer, and he kind of just wanted the house gone. He accepted my offer. So then I purchased the house. I knew that I was going to have to put holding tanks in, which I just got done over the winter. I knew it needed a lot of repairs, but I love the lake. I never thought in a million years I'd be able to afford a house on the lake. I got lucky. So after the fact, I found out about the dock issue, and that's when I hired Gary.
And just to clarify, we were not involved in any of the closings. We came in, as Captain Wall stated, once the dock issue came front and center to him.
But you didn't have any indication that the price of the sale went down for any other reasons?
No, the realtors aren't going to give me the history of any prior transactions when I'm buying the house. They really shouldn't anyway, ethically. They shouldn't tell me what happened previously. So I knew the house needed work. I knew it needed holding tanks. I knew it was going to be an expense. So after purchasing the house, I spent $125 basically making the house livable. I just put holding tanks in, and one of the issues is the dock builder, I got an estimate, says basically if I have to make this dock conform, it's $150,000. And then I got the letter from the appraiser and another realtor basically stating if you have to do this and change the way this dock is, it's probably going to impact the market value $150,000 to $175,000. That was from an appraiser and a realtor, so that's also an impact. So if you add the $150 to bring it in to make it conform, and then the money, losing the market value, and the $125 I kind of already spent making the house livable, now you're up to between $400,000 and $500,000. I know the house is worth more than what I paid for it 2.5 years ago. Of course it is, but if you kind of deduct that money, that $400,000 or $500,000, I may actually be a little underwater at this point.
So basically, let me just get this straight. You're looking for an extension for the timeline because, you know that the dock is not in compliance at all. And you're looking for, is the variance for an extension of the timeline to get this fixed, or for you don't want to put any work into the dock?
The variance is to keep the dock as it is, to allow this dock.
Forever?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you have counsel for your closing?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Your counsel didn't? Normally, counsel familiar with Lake George properties inquire of the Park Commission if there's any ongoing limitations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You're correct. No, I never signed anything. My realtor never said anything. No one said anything about it. The holding tanks I knew about, and I knew that I got a home inspection. I knew the house was going to need, significant repairs, but I was unaware of the dock.
But did you have local counsel?
Excuse me?
Did you have local counsel and a local realtor?
Yes, I did.
Isn't New York State, don't they require the seller to
Ethically, I looked into this too. Ethically, they should make you aware. Legally, they don't have to. I looked into that. I spoke to a bunch of different lawyers.
That sounds odd to me. I remember I had to, when I sold my house, I had to tell everything that could potentially be wrong that I knew about.
That's full disclosure, and they're technically supposed to, and I was told, if you want to, you could sue them for it. I don't want to, I'm not that kind of person, but yes, in the disclosure, you're supposed to disclose everything.
Do you have any
Who was your
Legal
attorney
counsel?
It's-
for the sale?
It was Teresa, I forget her last name.
It's this one? Teresa
Marinello?
Marinello?
I believe so.
Reese?
It's really unfortunate you did not get good advice, is my personal opinion is, because it is a very public situation when a dock or whatever, it's in the public record, et cetera, et cetera. I'm shocked no one had told you. Neighbors, read the paper, title search, on and on and on. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen when it transacts.
And technically, it really should have never cleared title with that issue. I was told that by somebody too. It never should have cleared title.
Okay.
And no matter how convoluted that history is, we figured this was coming before this commission to get everything all straightened out would be the most logical approach here. And maybe some of the neighbors didn't pick up on this because the dock as existing has been there for going on 40 years. I think 30.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true. I don't believe the dock, as it stands today, has been there for 40 years.
Well, it's
Okay.
definitely not grandfathered in under that 81 ordinance.
Yeah, I think you're misquoting that. We discovered it when we did our annual dock inspections for various areas, and that's when it came up.
It came up in the 2019,
Right.
correct?
Right.
Yeah, based on Molly's air photo analysis, it occurred sometime after 2008, was what her notes said.
Right.
Really?
Yes.
It's very surprising to me, because I have, even in the 10 letters that I have from my neighbors, and some of them have lived there 40, 50 years, they kind of stated that it's been there as long as they can remember, probably 90s, early 90s, so I'm very surprised at that.
2008, they did a flyover, and that's where it wasn't there.
Okay.
Are you aware, that staff, I'm not sure where in staff, that they've suggested that we could remove parts of it, the part at the end of it that doesn't have a crib,
Yes.
the part along the shore that would bring it into conformance that also doesn't have a crib, and that maybe you could leave the 8-foot wide dock out through, removing that wouldn't be anywhere near the $150,000.
No, not at
It would be
all.
far cheaper. It would get it into
Yes.
compliance or closer to compliance, and then with a stipulation that if you ever have major repair, that you would bring it into total compliance.
Yes, I believe I spoke with Joe in the fall about this. I'm willing to make some concessions, and I completely understand the 5-foot piece
On the end, right.
Totally willing to remove that. And there's a little triangle piece.
I'm sorry, yes, that was
Yes,
another
that-
piece.
It's supposed to be a kayak holder. I don't use it. I put the kayaks on the ground because the renters next door, I don't want to obstruct their view looking up the lake, so I don't even put them up there. I'm willing to remove that piece. But the main issue is that lower level. Not only does it obviously affect the way we use the lake because it's nice, but when the waves come in, it actually is a buffer for the waves coming in. It's kind of, I have that lower dock, then there's a little wall, a wooden wall, and then there's an upper deck. So the engineer wrote a letter in the packet. It actually does provide some support, but if that was going to go away, now the waves are basically coming in to the shore, and I would have to build a wall or something there, and they would erode it away. So it actually does kind of prevent the waves from basically eroding the shoreline as well. But I'm willing to make concessions.
Joe, did we have a visit?
Yes, we
Yes.
visited it, and he's correct that we thought that the extension, the 5-foot extension on the dock itself should be removed. The angle on the east side, where his kayak rack is, probably should be removed. And then the extension of the flat, and leave the dock at 8 feet. And if they ever have any major construction on rebuilding it, it would be requested to put it back into 6 feet compliance. And then the platform along the shore has been extended considerably, and we were thinking of reducing that in some fashion at this point.
Would it be appropriate to riprap along the shore to stop the wave action?
Yeah.
Would that make more sense? Because I think that's more...
We couldn't see underneath that dock, that extension that's there in the picture. We walked out on the dock, but you couldn't tell what was there and what wasn't there. But you're right, there is possibility of putting some riprap there. It's more of a, platform for sitting near the lake. I mean, you could do the same thing on the dock, put chairs on the dock or do that type of thing.
Well, you know what, honestly, we really don't sit down there because my neighbor puts his 26-foot boat. Right. And was it there when you visited or no?
No.
Nothing.
You can't see, you have no view. That's a whole nother deal. But basically, the ease of it is, my wife getting out of the kayak, it's a bigger platform. That's where I put the 2 kayaks that I don't put on the rack. I put them there along that wall instead of putting them up into the yard. So I thought about putting a table and chairs down there, but it kind of doesn't work because all you see is my neighbor's giant boat. So it just makes ease of getting in and out of the lake easier.
Well, I have a couple comments on the wave action. First of all, we're in Warner Bay, 200 feet from shore.
It's a good thing.
Boats should be slowing down. You're not getting any major north wind coming in there that's going, to me, I've been on the lake my entire life, that's going to make a big impact. The boats should be slowing down. Secondly, as far as the kayaks, if my memory, I was there yesterday, you have that nice little stairs that goes down into that nice swimming area that's just north of the dock, about 10 feet, 12 feet north. And to me, that's a great in and out kayak accessibility. Seriously, you've got a nice little frontage there that I don't see any hardship as far as recreating with your boats or your swimming or anything else on the lake. It's pretty nice in there.
2 things. The first point about the waves, you're right, the wind does not affect it. That bay is where everybody goes to wake surf, tube, and whatnot. And you're right, they should be further offshore and they should slow down. They don't. They come within 40, 50 feet, wake surfing, tubing, this and that. The waves that come in, I'm telling you, you'd be surprised. You get 4 or 5 foot swells coming in. Even my neighbors call and complain about it. The kids don't care. So the wave action is pretty substantial. And you're right, I do have the stairs going down, but my neighbor's boat literally is right there. You can't it's great for walking down into the lake, you're correct, but to get out of a kayak, you can't get out there. You actually have to pull it along. You know what it looks like. You pull it along the side, and then you can get out of your kayak. So you really can't get out by the steps because, again, it's my neighbor's boat. It has nothing to do with this issue, but it doesn't work.
And if I could just clarify, the hardship is the financial element of bringing it into compliance. It would be substantially costly to Captain Glum, not taking into consideration those reductions that were just proposed as the previous plan, bring it into full compliance. It would cost a substantial amount.
That's to replace the whole dock. When there is an option to not replace the whole dock and come to some level that Joe has identified, why are you not addressing that part of it? I mean, I have to ask our lawyer. I'm uncomfortable with a lot of the things.
That's the exact same question I had. Does the visitation committee suggest that either the applicant redraw it, or do we have enough information to make some recommendations that I presume would bring the project into compliance? Is that possible to do this morning?
Good point. Good question.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, so Joe was doing some negotiations through enforcement, Lieutenant Johns, obviously in advance of the application with the prior owner. And one of the things that was offered there's the schematic and the order on consent, which all the commissioners have, where it highlights in red all the non-compliant things. None of, most of it is, freestanding, stake supported, with the exception of the main pier, the crib work. And what Joe offered, as we often do, is, and the cribs look like they're in decent shape right now, was you can maintain that 8-foot wide width, from that lakeward pier back to shore until substantial reconstruction. That wasn't put into your existing order on consent. Right now it says bring the whole thing into compliance. But that was something I know was offered previously, and in speaking with some commissioners, they seemed amenable to that. So that way, all the other red portions, the big shoreline deck that went in after 2008, the triangular piece, the offshore piece that's beyond the crib, those would be removed. But the 8-foot wide main pier could be maintained until such time as you need to substantially reconstruct it. When you're already going to be investing in it, then go and address it at that time. So if you need to build new cribs, whether you're going to go to a pile-driven dock or something along those lines, where you'll be, structurally addressing that, then you would be the time to make it 6 feet, but you can maintain it until that time.
Well, that estimate that I got from that dock builder, that wasn't to build an entire new deck. That was literally just to bring it into compliance. That wasn't for a new.
But that would
You need
be
to get another
removing the
estimate.
8-foot
Yeah, the crib
back
work
to
is the
6.
most.
That would be crib work.
Crib work is usually most expensive. because
Most
it's
expensive
most
start.
labor intensive.
So his bid was to make it completely, and we're saying, don't make it completely, leave it 8 foot with your crib work there. Remove the 5-foot extension, remove the triangle where the kayak stand is, and the platform along the shore.
Yeah, that's basically, I showed him the drawing. I basically showed him the drawing, and that's the price he gave me. The platform, removing that lower platform was also a big deal, because then he said, now you have to deal with the shoreline issue. So, again, I don't know, I'm not a dock builder, but I showed him the picture, and that's the estimate that he gave me.
But the picture that you showed him included the red section along the main
Yes.
pier. That what Joe was saying and what Commissioner Stanek is saying is that's going to be the vast majority of the cost. Doing all the in-water work based on commission experience, vastly different cost than simply taking it off a cantilevered end. I could take off the cantilevered end in an hour. Over here, I couldn't do the crib work. Right? So I think what they're offering you is a fairly good solution, which is you maintain what would otherwise be an illegal 8-foot wide dock, and you simply reduce this shoreline deck that's not necessary for berthing, which is the whole purpose for the dockage, and you remove the cantilevered end, and you maintain the width of your 8-foot dock, which is, again, the vast majority of your cost. So I think that's what Lieutenant had offered.
And that could be forever. If you don't have major crib work ever that's required, then you're never going to be required to do it. The only time you would be is if you got hit by the ice and it tipped it over and you had to rebuild, that's major. But
I think your future is accepting a no or accepting a modification.
And just to be clear on the modification, are we proposing to modify that order on consent and have that minus the red area be confirmed as, for lack of a better term, okay and permitted?
So administratively, I would suggest doing it through order on consent, since we already have one executed. And for clarity, it would, all the red needs to be removed, except that this area from here to here, where the cribs are, could be maintained until such time as there's substantial reconstruction. And for clarity, I'll show you the 2018.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to do. Thank you. Counselor?
It's still going to be a pretty
If you'd like some time to talk to your client about it. I mean, we can beat it to death for another half hour, but I think everybody's on the same page. And if you can make an immediate decision, fine. If you would like some time to give us some thought, you can excuse yourself for a few moments.
I think we'll step aside for a moment to confer about this, and then if it's appropriate, we'll be recalled.
And this lawyer issue, with the exception of the 2 lawyers that I know that are in the room, I have a family member who, not that long ago, a few years ago, bought a piece of property on Lake George. They didn't have, the house had a road between them, but 20 foot of lakefront was all they had. I didn't know this whole process was going on. It was my grandson. And so when I said to him, well, and they closed. And I said, well, how come you didn't call Pop? And, you got Pop's attorney to get you to close. His wife's parents hired an attorney out of Albany. Who would think they would hire? Yeah. But, put it pointedly, they got screwed. And I was embarrassed. But, I won't be embarrassed about yours, but live by the history.
Just so we're on the same page, Joe, are you talking about page 9 in the application?
He's cool. Aaron's saying
Just
yes.
so we all know, we're all here.
Yes, yeah, so that's Schedule A of the order on consent, which notes the unpermitted expansion.
But we have some items on the agenda we can move to, and we'll accommodate you the minute you come back.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thanks for understanding. Hope we can work it out. Okay, let's move on to item 6, 2024 LGPC, Invasive Species Prevention / Boat Inspection Program Overview by Mr. Justin Like, LGPC Administrative Specialist. How is that?
So it's official, we're inspecting boats. We opened last Monday, April 15th, at the $1 Million Beach, the Norwal Marina Inspection Station, Rogers Rock Campground, and Mossy Point Boat Launch in Ticonderoga. The South Bay site, which is notably on Lake Champlain, is not open. We're waiting until May 1st to open that site. Ben Marshall, our new trades generalist, he's been doing a lot of legwork, and I'm grateful to have him. He's been hauling landers back and forth, and he's been quick on the uptake with regards to the, undoing the winterization that we do every fall. So he's got equipment deployed at the 4 sites I mentioned earlier. Ben and I are headed over to South Bay tomorrow afternoon to grab the machine that's there. Then we'll work on getting that ready. We'll put some water in it, and fuel, and we'll send it back Thursday morning. So that'll be ready to go for May 1st, which I believe is a Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So at that point, we'll have all of our inspection stations open. I haven't seen any samples collected yet, which is good. But at this time of year, it's not really, we're not really growing anything this time of year, so it's not surprising. Chris Mueller's been a big help. We had a Landa last year that had a generator die. So the Landas have a gas engine that provide power for the pumps, and then there's a generator that provides onboard power to run like the vacuum and some of the other pumps. Unfortunately, they die every once in a while, so Chris removed one, and he had it rebuilt at Boulevard Electric down in Hudson Falls, and that was reinstalled last week. And the timing on that was perfect because we had another generator call it quits like the same day he was installing the rebuilt one. So he came and installed the rebuilt one and took the other one down to get rebuilt. He's doing that today. So
Chris is our marine mechanic that we've repurposed to.
Yeah, there's certain things on the Landas that you can do in the parking lot, and then there's certain things that you want, like a nice, clean, organized space where you can. It's a more involved service, and Chris has space at the DEC Green Island facility to do that. We just have a parking lot, so Chris has been a big help.
Are there any changes in location of the operations?
No, this year everything is the same as last year, location-wise. A couple years ago we opened up at South Bay, and that was a big change. But this year we're just status quo.
Okay.
And everybody at Hewlett's Landing is going to be okay.
Yeah, I think there was concern that we'd have boaters bypassing.
Yeah.
Going to Hewlett's, getting turned around, and then come back pretty hot under the collar. I think that happened once the first year, and I think they learned.
But I'm saying with all the people where they weren't able, they all panicked, they couldn't.
Oh, the residents?
Yeah.
The residents, they couldn't launch their boat, they were afraid to launch their boats.
Yep, yeah, so we spent considerable time in doing what we call our frozen boats program. We did it in the winter before the start of the 2020 or 2014 program. We basically, I went to Hewlett's, Joe Thielen helped out, and we made a couple of days out of going up there, meeting with homeowners that live in the landing and putting tags on their boats that were, parked in their lot, and they come out of Lake George at, Tom Conrad's facility there, and then they stay in the landing, and then in the spring they go back and launch at the marina. We applied seals to those boats that Tom didn't seal, and so that way those boats could be launched at Tom's facility because they have a seal, and then we issue seals to Tom. So Tom is able to seal those boats as they come out of Lake George. So if they just, if they go to their, park the boat in the driveway for the fall and winter, and then they go back in the spring, it's got a seal on it, and Tom is able to launch it. So those boats, they really don't have, there's really no change for the.
It's worked out very well.
Yeah, it's a good system. It just is reliant on the boater getting a seal from the marina on the way out. So that's important.
That's what makes it work.
Right. So the boat owners need to coordinate with Tom. If they wait late enough in the season that the marina's not really open, they need to get in touch with Tom to make that work.
So are you still doing frozen boat on the driveway?
No, it's not something we do regularly. It was just because we were doing a significant change to the program for the residents of Hewlett's. We recognized that it was going to be inconvenient to ask them to haul the boats up over the mountain, down to South Bay and then back, especially when a lot of them don't have trucks. So that was something that we did.
I'm running out my giant's fine.
Yeah, your truck is fine.
Is Dunham's Bay in or out?
Dunham's Bay is closed. Yep. So last year was the final season for Dunham's Bay. With the opening of the $1 Million Beach in 2015, we saw a significant shift in boat activity to the $1 Million Beach for its convenient location, and then also castaways. They started in 2020. They closed to the public, and Fisher's Marina as well. They're not open to the public anymore, so there wasn't so much of a draw for the boating public to go to that east side, so they kind of all stayed over at the $1 Million Beach. So the traffic at Dunham's Bay dropped precipitously. So it just didn't make sense.
Are we able to handle that volume at $1 Million Beach without inconveniencing a lot of people?
The volume, they won't even notice at the $1 Million Beach, because $1 Million Beach, they could do 240 inspections in and out in a busy Saturday in July.
Wow.
Whereas Dunham's Bay did 250 boats last year. To be fair, we were only open,
The weekends.
So it's not apples to apples,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's a drop in the bucket compared to.
So this serves us and them.
How about the Lambda units? They're getting kind of old.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually just got an email from Travis, who is the gentleman who we purchase Lambda-specific parts from, letting us know that Lambda is no longer going to be making the Ecos 7,000 units. So he basically said, we'll continue to stock parts for these things because there's like a lot of, parts that will be maintained, but like that platform is done. They're having apparently a hard time getting the freshwater tanks. They're having a hard time sourcing those, and it's just they don't sell enough of them. And Roger and I had discussed transitioning away from the trailer units going forward, and this is clearly no longer a pilot program, so being mobile and flexible like that is less critical. So I think we could certainly accommodate, retiring the Lambda fleet as they age out of service with a different configuration that would be just as good,
Right.
and not require the added complexity and weight of the trailer. So.
How are we doing staff-wise?
Staff-wise, we're doing pretty well. We're taking on 3 of the 5 inspection station supervisors as Parks and Recreation aid level 6s this year, so that's a state position. So they'll have access to certain state benefits, which I think is great because These are employees that we've had on the books for years. They know the job, they do it well. They're an asset to the program and the agency, so to kind of give them, state status seasonally is a good move. With regards to just general staff, we have a pretty good number of returning folks at all sites. We're fully staffed at South Bay. Mossy Point is good. There's a couple of staffing changes at Rogers Rock, but that's not out of the ordinary. We always struggle with staff at the Bolton site, at Norwalk, so it'll be interesting to see how many people we need to hire there. Last year, there were a couple of days where we didn't have enough staff to match the marina's hours, which is a problem, because the last thing you want is to close the inspection station 2 hours before the marina closes. So hopefully we can avoid that this year. Aaron at the $1 Million Beach, I think, is doing pretty well. So we're in a pretty good spot.
Anything else, folks?
Thank you.
I read somewhere about potential boats being launched at $1 Million Beach this winter.
I can never understand it.
I know that there are some people that would like us to do inspection year round, or at least, ice out to ice in. Last year there wasn't as much ice as historically there has been, but I certainly don't expect to be plowing the DEC parking lot to facilitate boat inspection.
I think the point was that it's for people launching their boats and not having them inspected. The only reason that was brought up, I think there was a little article in the Mirror about it at some point in February.
Yeah, there may have been, but that time of year, we're out certainly outside the growing season. The water temperatures are well below, where aquatic invasive species thrive. So I think it's risk management, right? And at that time of year, the risk is exceedingly low.
Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Nice job. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is Marine Patrol Fuel Resolution. Lieutenant Johns.
Okay, so we've got a resolution up for gasoline purchase.
You want to leave? Are you leaving?
We didn't hear you.
He left.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a resolution up for you for gasoline purchase for $49,900.
The gas. Double click on it.
Basically, the patrol burns between 13,500 gallons and 14,500 gallons annually. Last year, the pumps were down at Green Island DEC facility for part of the year. We spent last year about $62,000, $63,000 of gas.
I think it's a good idea to buy that.
We spend more time at the charging stations. So buying gas direct without the taxes and state contract price, we're going to save about $15,000. So we're going to buy our own gas, put it in the tanks at the DEC facility in Bolton Landing. DEC is going to buy their own gas, put it in there until we get everything straightened out. This is how it'll work for this year. So basically, this is what we spend in fuel anyway per year. It's just we're going to get a purchase order. So every time that we want to buy gas, we just call up and say, deliver us 5,000 gallons, and then the state will pay for the gas.
Great.
Also keep in mind that we get 50% of this gasoline cost back from New York State Parks at the end of the year.
I've got a resolution for this. Resolution 2024-13. Whereas the Lake George Park Commission Enforcement Committee has reviewed the status of the Marine Patrol annual fuel usage, and whereas the DEC is unable to purchase enough 91-octane non-ethanol in the 2024 due to state contract restraints, and whereas the mission of the Commission requires the continued operation of the Marine Patrol, and 91-octane non-ethanol gas is essential to the equipment to maintain the operation of the patrol at its present level. And whereas the Commission can purchase gas and at a rate much less than at the marina and dispense the gas at the DEC's facility at Green Island. Now therefore be it resolved that the commission is hereby authorized to allocate funds for the existing, not exceeding $49,000 in the total for the purchase of 91 octane non-ethanol gasoline for the 2024 season. It is further resolved that the executive director is authorized to execute a purchase order for said gasoline consistent with the findings and requirements of the state finance law and Office of Standards and Purchase and the Office of the General Services Procurement Guidelines. So moved.
Second.
Motion's made, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, that motion is carried. Thank you.
Now, do we want to continue with the Law Enforcement Committee's report, or do you want to wait to see
Did you folks come to a conclusion?
Yes.
Potentially, but if you want to continue with the agenda.
We've got one more agenda item, doesn't take long,
Okay.
and then we'll give you the time, and then you can watch us adjourn.
Okay, the Law Enforcement Committee met this morning, and we had a very lengthy time in regards to some of the things going on. First of all, a new gas tank for Patrol Boat 105 was installed, and the boat was put in the water and test driven. 2 new motors for Patrol Boat 103 are in. They were purchased by New York State Parks and will be installed mid-May after the park school. A new radar unit being installed on 107. New unit was installed on 103 last month. New York State's Parks purchased these units for the commission. 1 boat is in the water now, and there will be 4 in the water by May 1. 3 officers have completed the first part of the accident reconstruction school in Albany. That brings us up now to 6 who have done this. And it's not, when we do have accidents on Lake George, and it's very good that we have this training. Secondly, the New York State Parks Marine law enforcement classes are scheduled for the first 2 weeks of May. We will be supplying 2 of our officers as instructors and at least 2 patrol boats for the classes. We have done this for probably the last 30 years. Patrol will begin daily operations on the lake starting May 1st, and 5 officers are on the payroll now, and all officers should be on the payroll by next week. I have a resolution to read. Resolution 2024-14. The Law Enforcement Committee met on April 23rd, 24th to review matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission's Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program. And whereas the committee did not go into executive session today, whereas the Law Enforcement Committee has reported on the results of that committee meeting to the full commission meeting, and whereas the Law Enforcement Committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report. Now therefore be it resolved that the commission accepts the report of the Law Enforcement Committee. I so move.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Hearing no nays?
Yeah.
That is carried.
Just
And
be sure that note that we did not go to executive session in this meeting.
you're welcome to come back up, and then we'll be talking about the important part of the meeting, which is called adjournment.
Okay, so we went over what the proposal was to remove some of the area, and we're generally okay with that at this point. We identified one, and this is hand drawn. I don't know if you want to see this.
We'll try it. Yeah, maybe try to explain it to us and then pass it out.
So we have consented to most of it, the triangle portion, the end tip portion. And the way we were looking at it is I'll hold it up. The deck on land extends to there. Our proposal is to continue the in the water dock in line with that deck on land portion and remove across all the way as requested. So we're talking about keeping this little square that goes to supporting the deck on land and the structural issues identified. We think this would be a reasonable solution, reasonably cost effective for everyone, and getting closer into compliance. And obviously it would be subject to the reconstruction provision, where if major reconstruction, we don't get to go back to that.
So you're proposing where the steps are would be, stay where they are and connect it to the back adjoining deck?
Yeah, well, so basically, if this is the lower platform, and this is the wall sits here that supports the upper deck, having this intact is, to me, very important, because it does support the upper deck, and there is a wall there, and it does stop the erosion. So basically cutting it in half. So I am eliminating
From the stairs to the dock?
Yeah, and then I would probably just take the stairs and I would just slide them in and maybe reattach them if I could, or I don't know. But my main issue is if I make it like that, I'm gonna have a lot of work here. The wall would have to go, the upper deck would probably have to be eliminated too, because it is sitting on that wall. So if I was just able to leave the width and take off, you know, the front part that you're looking to be removed, it would make a big difference in price, I believe. And it would support the upper deck as well.
So basically you're saying is keep it the same width as the permanent section near the shore?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's just a quick offhand.
Right.
Obviously, got numbers.
They're going to remove that section.
Joe?
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on this?
Correct.
I was just measuring it, so it appears instead of doing a 4 by 10, they want to temporarily keep that 4-foot width along shore, the way we measure width, right? So it's 4 by 10. I'm measuring roughly 6 feet longer, right? You want to maintain it up against the shoreline here,
Yes.
up until the edge of the deck.
Yes, because the wall extends out there, which supports the upper deck, basically cutting it in half, basically.
Just continuing that
Give
line.
that to Joe.
Until substantial reconstruction.
I think it would be a big assumption.
Keep this.
Right.
Get rid of all this dark stuff.
I could live with that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep
It's not up to me.
a little bit here. This all goes.
So the reason
Where's
that
the stairs? Where's the
This is a good idea.
Where are the stairs?
What it's gonna be.
the stairs are down.
The rest of this.
No, the stairs are going
Thank you, man.
Oh, I don't know, I'd have to look at the
They're right
photos.
there, aren't they?
I can
Yeah,
highlight.
that's okay, I can live with that.
Yeah, I like this because it takes it away from that property line.
Yeah, that's what I do.
This is not doing that little square.
Yeah, that's fine. I can live with that.
The stairs are all at the end. Yeah.
How do we do this? You guys work out a new order on consent that everybody agrees to, and then it comes back to
Additions
us.
that they put on. So they're going to move the
They can
stairs.
deny the application, or they can voluntarily withdraw it.
They're removing.
They're gonna cut back.
That's specified.
Yeah, they're going to cut back from the shoreline, from the property line.
Because the
If it's easier, we could submit some.
Yeah, they're keeping that, not that. Right.
Or we could table it.
Our,
This section, they're going to keep.
Dismiss it.
Yeah, and put the stairs down.
Dismiss it. You guys can't work out.
Counselor,
if you guys are okay with this, then we'll just...
are the two corners, are the double Joes triangulated and getting the beaming together? Counselor has a suggestion as to how we arrive at the solution.
So the thought is that there's currently an order on consent that requires compliance or a variance, I think by June 1st, that you would sign. There's like an amendment to it. And the thought is that you can either table for today, work with Lieutenant Johns and Joe to, redo the order on consent as you're discussing it here. And then if you get that all done, then you just withdraw the variance, or withdraw the variance today and work on the order on consent. That's up to you folks, and the commission, whichever they think would be better to do.
I would, sorry, go ahead.
So, just to clarify, they wouldn't have to put in, if they do the order of consent, they wouldn't have to come back for a variance.
No, they would withdraw their variance at
Right,
that
they
point.
withdraw the variance, but the order of consent would
Moves
give them
forward.
permission to go forward with their changes.
Right.
And would control the change.
They should table it in case for some reason they can't work it out.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to
That's
have
fine.
to start over.
Yeah.
I just give options.
That's our request, that we table this for the time being until the next meeting, and hopefully we're able to all work this out, and we will just unilaterally withdraw our application, and we
Very
won't
good.
be back.
Okay, that's good.
So,
That's a universal?
so from my understanding, the board is comfortable with all the red being removed, with the exception of the 8-foot wide by 36-foot long main pier with the cribs, and they can keep that 4-foot width of the decking along shore, but it's going to extend about 6 feet longer to the deck.
Right.
And those can be maintained until they're substantially need to be reconstructed, in which case, then we get full compliance.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
We can draw that up, that's easy.
And will there be any kind of a time frame on this?
They want to come back next month.
Well, that shouldn't
I think
shouldn't have to come
this
back.
Project.
We can do it through
The order of
enforcement.
consent.
The order of consent will solve the whole problem.
Are you-
By
June 1, by June 1.
Yeah.
Get that taken care of, and,
Okay.
everything else, the major stuff is, during major construction.
Okay.
So you're agreeable, we're going to withdraw it today?
They're going to table.
Table
They're going to
today.
table
Yes,
today
thank
to
you.
work with staff.
Right, and then we'll update the order of consent, and then you can withdraw the application.
Okay.
Yes.
And get you
Very
back
good.
on the agenda.
Good.
They would not
If
have to be on.
necessary. They
Right.
wouldn't have to.
Nope, they'll withdraw it. If this all works out, then they just withdraw their variance application.
And that's the plan, so you probably won't see us next month.
Right. It's been a pleasure.
Not that it wasn't a nice day for a drive up here.
You're breaking our hearts, you're breaking our hearts. All right,
Okay, so
I'm glad that we were able to.
Thank you for your time.
Nice to meet you guys.
Now I'll go on to our final agenda item, public comments. Seeing none. The two that I wanted to hear from,
move to
Pete
adjourn.
Booty.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Mason?
No.
Second.
Second?
Yeah.
To adjourn?
To adjourn.
Oh, okay. We're all in favor of that. Let's go. Do we have lunch plans? It's
Got all right.
Where do you want to go?
11:21.
Activity director hasn't said.
Our activity director.
That is completely up to you.
Would have given them that.
There's only a few places open.